Let me tell you something that most men spend their entire lives not understanding, and it costs them in every relationship they ever have. Women do not think differently from men because something is wrong with how they think. They think differently because they are processing more emotional context, more relational consequence, more layers of meaning underneath the surface of every interaction. And the men who learn to understand that processing, not to control it, not to manage it, but to genuinely meet it, experience a quality of connection in their relationships that most men never find because they spent their whole lives waiting for women to think more simply rather than learning to think more deeply themselves. Today, we go inside how women actually think, honestly, respectfully, and with the psychological depth this subject deserves. Here is something a lot of men experience in relationships and feel genuinely confused by. She said everything was fine and then it wasn't. She seemed distant and you didn't know why. She needed something you couldn't identify because she didn't say it directly. She was upset about something that seemed small but was apparently connected to something much larger that you didn't know existed. And you tried. You genuinely tried to understand, but nobody ever gave you a real framework. A genuine, psychologically grounded understanding of how the female mind processes emotion, connection, and love. Today, that changes. Here is the foundational difference that explains more confusion between men and women than almost anything else. Neuroscience research on brain connectivity, including studies using diffusion tensor imaging, has documented that female brains tend to show stronger connectivity between the left and right hemispheres. What this means practically is that emotional processing and analytical processing happen more simultaneously in women than they typically do in men. When a woman is experiencing an emotion, she is also, at the same time, interpreting it, connecting it to past experiences, evaluating its relational implications, and considering what it means about the connection she is in. All of this happens at once rather than sequentially. This is why telling a woman to just think logically about something she feels emotionally invested in is not just unhelpful. It fundamentally misunderstands how her brain is actually operating. She is already thinking logically. She is doing it simultaneously with everything else. Here is something that explains a pattern most men find deeply confusing. When a woman responds to something you say or do with an emotional intensity that seems disproportionate to the specific moment, she is almost never responding only to the specific moment. She is responding to what the moment represents within the larger pattern of the relationship. A canceled plan is not just a canceled plan, it is data point 17 in an ongoing assessment of whether she is a priority. A dismissive comment during an argument is not just words said in frustration. It is information about whether she is genuinely safe with you. Women maintain a continuous relational running total, an ongoing, largely unconscious assessment of how the relationship is functioning overall. Each individual moment feeds into that total, and responses are often to the total, not just to the moment. Understanding this transforms how you navigate difficult conversations. The question to ask is never just what just happened. It is what pattern does this fit into from her perspective. This is one of the most practically important insights in this entire video, and it is one that men consistently miss. In most male communication patterns, the goal of sharing a problem is resolution. You share the issue, you find the solution, you move forward. The emotional content of the sharing is incidental to the practical goal. For most women, the goal of sharing a problem is connection through being heard. The experience of having her reality acknowledged, validated, received, genuinely understood is often the entire point. The solution, if she wants one, she may already have. What she needs first is to feel that her experience is real and that someone she trusts receives it as real. When a man skips straight to solutions, he accidentally communicates that her emotional experience of the problem is an obstacle to be cleared rather than something worth staying with. She doesn't feel helped. She feels dismissed. Stay in the feeling first. always. The solution can wait 2 minutes. The feeling cannot. Here is something worth understanding with genuine charity rather than frustration. Women, particularly those who have experienced emotional pain in relationships, develop a set of largely unconscious assessments, behavioral tests that evaluate whether the person they are investing in is genuinely safe. These are not games. They are the nervous system's attempt to gather real information before extending full trust. She might share something vulnerable and watch whether you handle it with care. She might express a need indirectly and notice whether you pick up on it. She might create a minor moment of conflict and observe whether you respond with security or with defensiveness. None of this is designed to be difficult. It is the attachment system doing its job, gathering evidence about whether the environment is genuinely safe before committing fully to it. The man who passes these tests is not the one who has perfect answers. He is the one who responds consistently with warmth, steadiness, and genuine care, whose behavior generates the same quality of data, regardless of whether he knows he's being observed. This is something that many relationships lose over time, and its loss is one of the most common sources of female emotional withdrawal in long-term connection. The experience of being chosen, not by default, not by inertia, but deliberately and specifically, is a fundamental psychological need that does not diminish once a relationship is established. If anything, it deepens. She needs to feel through your ongoing behavior that you are still actively glad she is the person in your life, that if you had to make the choice again today, you would make it, that your presence with her is a continuous decision rather than a settled circumstance. This is expressed through attention, through specific appreciation, through the small, consistent, deliberate behaviors that communicate, I still see you. I still choose you. You have not become background to me. Women consistently report a strong intuitive sense about relationships, a felt knowing about whether something is genuinely right, whether someone is being fully honest, whether the emotional environment is safe. This intuition is not mystical. It is the product of a nervous system that is highly attuned to social and emotional cues, processing facial micro-expressions, tonal shifts, behavioral inconsistencies at a speed that bypasses conscious analysis. When she says something feels off, even without being able to articulate exactly why, she is reporting genuine data. Her nervous system has detected something that her analytical mind hasn't yet caught up to. Dismissing that intuition, telling her she is overthinking or being irrational, is one of the most damaging things available in relationship, because it asks her to distrust the most honest data-gathering system she possesses. Trust her read. Even when you don't immediately see what she sees, here is what all of this points toward. Understanding how women think is not about gaining an advantage or learning to manage someone more effectively. It is about developing the emotional intelligence to actually meet another person, fully, respectfully, at the level where they actually live. The woman in your life is not complicated because something is wrong with her. She is complex because she is fully, deeply human, processing experience with a richness and depth that deserves genuine engagement rather than impatient simplification. When you develop the capacity to meet that complexity, to stay in the feeling, to acknowledge the pattern, to choose her continuously, to trust her intuition, you stop experiencing her inner world as a mystery and start experiencing it as the most interesting thing in the room. That shift from confusion to genuine understanding is where real love actually begins. If today gave you a new way of understanding the people you love, subscribe. Every week we go this deep into psychology, emotion, and what genuine human connection actually requires. I'll see you in the next one. Understand her world. Everything changes when you do.